Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. As I've talked a lot about on this podcast and on social media, I've been investing in self-development in masterminds since 2020. Along the way, I've met some amazing people, and it's even better when those people are local to you so you can get the opportunity to hang out with them. A few years ago, I got connected to Dr. Danny Roach of Cornerstone Chiropractic of Warrenton through the Arete Syndicate, and we ended up grabbing dinner together, and then since then I've really been watching each other grow online, seeing the growth that our businesses have, but really families and just lives as entrepreneurs as well. So it's been amazing seeing what he's been able to do from a distance. We were just catching up a little bit before the episode. We'll dive into a lot of that stuff here on the show today. But Danny, good to see you, man. Welcome to the show.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, man, it's been a while.
That dinner was a Cheesecake Factory.
Cheesecake Factory back 2021 or 2022. It's been a minute.
Right.
Yeah. So good, man. Well, tell the audience a little bit about kind of who you are, what you do with Cornerstone Chiropractic and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. So Dr. Daniel Roach, Cornerstone Chiropractic. I've been in practice now for 15 years, almost 15 years. So it's been a minute
that
I've been doing this. I had a clinic in Lake St. Louis for about 10 years first. So we were there for about a decade. And then I wound up selling that practice and then eventually moved to my hometown in Warrenton and wanted to start a practice out there. So been there for almost 5 years now in June.
That's awesome. Growing up, did you kind of know, when did you kind of know you wanted to go into chiropractic?
No, I wanted to be a veterinarian actually first. And just my personality, I'm a bit of an overachiever. So like in junior high, I had already had like 250 shadowing hours with vets and like had toured Mizzou's campus and like it was ridiculous.
That's impressive.
But then I worked at an animal hospital once I turned 16 and all the vets were like, don't do this. I was like, okay, maybe I should do something different. Yeah. So I kind of figured, well, I'll do maybe medicine. I'll go be an MD.
Yep.
But I kind of switched to chiropractic right there at the last second at undergrad.
That's awesome. And did you know, at what point did you kind of know that you wanted to do your own thing though inside of chiropractic?
Well, when you go through chiropractic school, there's pretty much two options you get when you graduate. It's either you're going to work for somebody, you're going to run your own business. And I started working at McDonald's when I was 15 and, start out normal stuff, flipping burgers type of things. But I didn't realize this is what they were using me for. But whenever I got further along, I was really good at it. And they would send me to stores that weren't doing well. Essentially, they were not profitable. And they'd say, Danny, can you go fix this store? And I'd just show up and be like, all right, these systems don't work. These people aren't doing what they're supposed to. Get rid of them, implement systems, and then it's profitable.
Go from there.
And they're paying me $11 an hour to do it, but yay. But I realized whenever I was getting ready to graduate Logan that I had that skill set. Like I'm really good at systems and scaling. So I was like, well, I could probably use that to my advantage. So I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I just opened right out of school.
So it was right out of school. You're just like, hey, let's go rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go do it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's incredible. So you talk about like the systems and the processes, right? Like I don't think most visionary entrepreneurs suck at those things. So like, what have you been able to figure out that like maybe some chiropractors, they're like, hey, I got this vision of this big practice that I want to go do, but then they struggle to get off their feet because they don't know what you know?
Right. Well, I knew I understood and was good at systems and fixing them, but I knew I didn't have one for chiropractic. And so there's different management companies out there, but the one that I chose whenever I was in school is called Integrity Doctors. My thought was, well, rather than reinventing the wheel, essentially, if I liked their model, so I adopted that one. And that one served me really well for a long time. I still use most of their systems, and then I've kind of evolved as we've grown.
Yeah. So like literally right out of college, you invested into something. So talk to a little bit about that. Obviously, that's how I met you, right? What is like investing in yourself or investing in the business done to kind of condense time to get to where you're at?
I mean, it's a huge benefit if I can learn from someone else that's already done it, and has done it better than what I've done. I will for sure invest in that system so that, well, the whole purpose is so that we can help more people, right?
Yeah.
Be able to solve more problems for more people. And if somebody's got a better way of doing it than I've thought of, then yeah, I'm going to adopt that first.
Yeah. Well, I think, I invested in my first mastermind like a month after going out full time, because that first month I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I think a lot of people wait a really long time, or they wait until like the absolute worst moment where it's like do or die to go make that investment. Whereas if you just did it on the other end at the forefront before you needed it, right? Whether it's, I tell people that all the time with marketing, or whether it's a business coach, or whether it's investing in yourself. And so I think a lot of people struggle with that. They look at it as an expense, but not the investment that they're getting out of it. What is your take on kind of doing things in that regard versus had you waited maybe a couple years down the line to adopt something like that?
That's a good question. So whenever I joined Integrity, for example, whenever I was still in school, I mean, that was going to be a huge investment. I literally was broke in college. So I remember we went to a conference, and my wife and I really liked what we heard. And I came back to the hotel room and was explaining like, okay, this is what it is. This is how much it's going to be. And she was like, well, I believe in you. So if you feel like this is what we should do, then you should do it. And so I did. And Integrity has this status, I guess you could call it. Once you reach 40,000 in collections per month, then you're like an elite member. So that was kind of like the first thing on my radar. Like, I'm going to try to hit this elite level. And so I hit it in a year and a half. And at that point, like, I had set a record for hitting that the quickest. So I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have the system already laid out for me.
100%. So you just kind of talked a little bit about the support you got from your wife. I'm sure that not just that investment, but also going out on your own, right? After going to chiropractic school is big. What has her support and just your overall support system done for you as an entrepreneur?
Well, it's paramount. Honestly, I mean, she's an extension of me and our family. And so her being on the same page, I probably wasn't as good at that when I was younger. Been married since 2006, a while. And probably earlier, I would tend to, just because I'm pretty driven, I'd be like, no, we need to do this. And so now I've learned to like wait for her to like be cool with everything and give a green light as well, because usually she's right.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned that as well.
Yeah, having that support is important. And as an example, when like I mentioned, I sold my Lake St. Louis office. This is an example of my marriage working. Just in prayer for myself, I kept feeling like God was telling me we were supposed to sell the practice and go open in my hometown. And I was like, I do not want to do that. I mean, I've spent 10 years building this thing. I don't understand why that would be a thing. So eventually, again, after about a month of reluctance, I took my wife out to dinner, and I was like, okay, we got to tell you something. Here's what I feel like we're supposed to do. And she's like, yeah, I know. You told me like 2 weeks ago. Like, what? Why didn't you tell me? I've been freaking out over here. So that really, again, gave me confidence that this is the right move. I didn't, again, really understand why at the time, but then, I mean, COVID hit and that practice would have tanked. And instead, in my hometown, we flourished. We grew like crazy once I moved. So it works out when you listen to your wife.
Yeah, no, it does. That's for the listeners, that's an incredible piece of advice.
Yes.
Well, I want to come back to in a second, kind of closing that practice and restarting, but talk to me a little bit about, obviously you have 5 kids, married, entrepreneur. How do you kind of juggle all of that?
Lots of intentionality. We were in Arete together. And Andy Frisell on his podcast talks about the power list. It's a running thing in my phone that I make sure I have like a business one, like these are the things I need to tackle in my business, but I have personal one as well. So every day I make sure like I'm connecting with my wife and I'm connected with my children. I make time to read and pray and all these things as well. So I make I make time for all of that, and I make sure that my family knows that they're first and not a second thought to the business.
Yeah. And was it like that from day one, or how has it
No.
evolved over time?
Heck no. Day one, opening a business from scratch. Well, she was there too. She helped me when we first started, but she was out marketing while I was in the office, and we were both working 80, 90-hour weeks every single week, just trying to figure out what to do. So yeah, we were very blessed that her parents watched our kids, because I had 2 kids by the time I opened practice.
Yeah.
And so they watched our kids a lot. So we missed out on things, but I don't know that I necessarily am regretful or anything like that. Like, it was a season that needed to happen in order to learn what I know now that I'm able to bless them too.
Yeah. No, I think it's all about the intention that you mentioned, but also like understanding that certain things do happen in a season, and just making sure that season doesn't just like turn into forever.
Your whole lifetime.
Because that's one of the things that I struggled with, even before we had Murphy, but basically from 2020, a year after we got married, to before I exited the agency that I was a part of previously, it was like, this is only going to be a season. But then the business just required so much of me, because it was always about the wrong things of growing and the scaling and the revenue. And you're like, I have all these employees, but I'm not making any more. And I have all these more problems because I have these more clients, right? And then so when I had to basically start over from scratch last year, it's like, hey, I got to go in this season again. And we've only been doing it now, again for 7 months. And it's like, we're finally now having a lot of those leaders in place to be able to buy back my time, because it's one of the most unfortunate things ever, where you have to like go to your family and say like, hey, this thing needs me. And it's the driver for the family. So it's this dichotomy of like the chicken and the egg and how you manage it.
Like you said, it's about the communication. They have to understand what it is you're working on, and maybe show them the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, this is what this looks like, but when we get to this point, I'll be able to step back and give more of my time, just getting everybody on the same page about it.
Yeah, the communication aspects, I think, is where most people fail.
Yes.
They do it behind closed doors. They then show up, and I know I've struggled with this as well, because I'm like, I don't necessarily want to bring in all of the chaos to my wife and say, hey, these 10 things happened today. As I'm walking through the door, the Murphy's crying, he needs to eat, all those different things. But I think the more the proactive communication, and then giving them, also asking them, how much do you want to know about what's going on? If you want to know everything, like, how much time do you have? I can go through it all. But I think the communication aspect is where most people just assume, hey, I can go work the long hours and then come home and my family's just going to understand, because they see me gone, they see me working, but it's much more than that.
But they don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. So walk us through kind of, I know you mentioned a little bit, closing the office and then reopening. How did that kind of, I know obviously your hometown was big to go back there, but walk me through kind of that from a high level.
Yeah, sure. So my only chiropractic experience before I went to Logan was a guy in our hometown, which I think he's been retired a long, long time now. But my wife, when we were in high school, we weren't married in high school, but friends, she was a cheerleader and fell from the pyramid thing that they make and hurt her back. And her dad said, okay, you need to go see this chiropractor. Okay. So we show up, and it was different for sure. It looked like it was the 70s still in there, and it was just him. It didn't like seem professional. There was no paperwork. It's just, hey, you hurt yourself, lay down, let's pop you. And we're like, what just happened? And we left. She's like, I don't even know if I like that. And it was very strange. And so obviously after going through school, I'm like, oh, so this is what it's supposed to be like. So again, after being really led by God to go back and do that, I understood that was because it was very much a need in that area, was to have very high quality, comprehensive type of chiropractic care in that area. And so I was happy to serve that community, because that's where I'm from and I grew up there. And so I was really excited about that. But honestly, I was a little nervous too, because everybody there was very used to like I show up, I get popped,
Yeah.
and I leave, which is just not the model that we run. When patients come in, we do a comprehensive exam, and we're taking x-rays typically and going through metabolic conversations, and we just look at the whole picture and then give a plan based on what that person's goals are. And so it's not what they're used to, in other words. So I opened June 2020. So everybody's been locked up now for months. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go because people aren't used to what I do. And everybody's been locked up for COVID.
Yeah.
But it absolutely just blew up like right off the bat. It was astounding, honestly. Some things I feel like that we did well was I knew that as far as authority and just branding, because I grew up in the town and I wasn't an idiot when I was a kid. I had a positive reputation.
Yeah. You had a lot of things going for you.
I've always been nice to people, and like I just, I didn't have a bad reputation in my town, so that was helpful. So I thought, well, it's a smaller town. There's like maybe 10,000 people in the city, 16,000 in the county. I could probably put up like a billboard, some yard signs, like, kind of where people see my face and recognize me. And Warren County billboard was like $300. So I was like, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. So that pretty much everybody knows we're there right away. Put yard signs out everywhere. We did a bunch of social media posts to like create hype and let people know like, hey, this is the thing that's coming and we're going to be opening. And, did some Google ads and some Facebook ads, and I was like, well, we'll see what happens. And yeah, we opened up and I set a record month right off the bat. I had 125 new patients show up that first month. And I just had I was going to start from scratch. So I had like 2 people working with me, and that was pretty much it. So the next month, again, it was another slam dunk. And then August was another slam dunk. And I had not planned on bringing another doc on for probably like maybe a year or 2 starting from scratch. But by month 3, I had to hire another doc. So it grew really, really quickly. So it was very exciting.
Well, and the next question I was going to have is like, how did you market? How did you get off the ground? But you obviously explained some of those things right there. I think that's where, most people, they don't take a look at the optics of, well, where am I going to go open a business or run a business? Or if you're virtual online, like, who am I going to serve?
Right.
So you said, hey, I have some brand equity. I'm familiar with the town. People know me. Obviously, we haven't done it here before, but we've done it elsewhere. You knew who you could serve, what the population was, what you were going to do differently. And you kind of just safe to failed experimented. We're going to try all these different things to see what works. And I think it's kind of a culmination of like the right opportunity at the right time, but being willing to say, hey, we're going to go invest and try some things out. Like you probably didn't know this was going to work or that was going to work, but you're like, hey, if I do all of these things, it's going to be a compound effort. So like, how do you look at marketing and advertising and branding in that regard?
Well, it's basically what you just said. Rather than trying one thing and then saying it didn't work, you try all of them simultaneously. And then rather than going by emotion, you literally look at the numbers and say, okay, I spent $600 on this. The return was this. So versus this one, I spent $600 and the return was way less. Well, I'm going to put more money towards the thing that is making me more money. But you never like cut off those other channels either. Like they all work just to different degrees. So just have to strategically look at that.
Yeah. So how was marketing and advertising in Warrenton different than Lake St. Louis?
Lake St. Louis, you're just what's the term? Like you're a smaller fish in a bigger pond. And so it was a lot more boots on the ground, grassroots marketing. We were at every single possible event that was happening in Lake St. Louis. We were going into businesses constantly. And I do that now too. But that was like the main way that we got for Lake St. Louis. Facebook ads, I don't know, when they first rolled out, I think they did great for everybody in chiropractic. And I rode the wave as long as that went. And eventually it was like, okay, we get a few people, but not crazy amounts. So it was mostly the grassroots market.
Yeah. And then if you take a look at, you'd kind of talked about earlier where you guys did expand. So did that expansion happen after you guys launched the Warrenton office and then you guys launched 2 more offices or walk me through that?
So my personality is very much cart before horse.
Yeah.
And I've learned my lessons with that. But I kept pushing my business coach, like, okay, all my friends are opening more clinics. I want to open more clinics. Like, we could do well. And he's like, let's just like get this main clinic better established before we go that route. So I think I waited till I was at year 2. And then I said, okay, can I open more clinics now? So then that's whenever I did that. So then I opened the second clinic like October. And then I opened the third clinic March. So they were like pretty close together. Would not recommend.
Yeah.
It was a lot of stress.
So like, yeah, kind of going back, and again, we were kind of talking about before. So you went and closed those offices recently. What have you learned about trying to go? What I would say is you went maybe wider instead of deeper in your own practice. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely learned several lessons in that process. And I would say one would be, as you mentioned, your leadership and infrastructure. I had a good leader with me that was kind of my right hand at the time, and she was great, but you just needed more. When there's that many locations, you got to have a solid leadership team, and the people that are going to be running those locations also have to be solid in their own leadership. And so one of the things I learned, and it's no disrespect to those people at all, it was my lack of failing to lead them properly. But just because they were a great doc in the main clinic does not make them a great business leader.
Yep.
And so that was an aspect of it. To pair the clinic we opened there, also marketing was very different, completely different monster. And so like we put, a bunch of money out on Facebook ads and Google ads, and literally nothing happened. I was like, where's all the people?
Yeah.
So we had to switch gears really quickly. And like I said, a $300 billboard in Warren County is like $3,000 on Manchester Road. So So there was a lot of just trying to shift gears with marketing that was very difficult. And as you said, just growing deeper roots with the main clinic. Also financially, my checkbook should have been a lot thicker before I opened more clinics, because I was burning through cash pretty quick. And then it's easy to make the wrong decisions based in fear versus being smart about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that I think when we were talking right before the episode of like, we see all this stuff, we're in these groups and people are like going and doing it, and they're making it seem like it's just so easy. It's like Monopoly. I'm just going to go buy more property, and then all of a sudden people are going to show up, right? And it's there's a lot of things that, as the listeners are listening to this, like, you just don't see the behind the scenes on social media. You don't see like
the successes.
You just see that, yeah. So like going back to 2021, I launched my auto glass company. I became a franchisee of a digital marketing agency, and I launched a landscape design business all within 5 months. It's like, on paper, everybody was like, "That's awesome, Adam. You're doing all this stuff." And then you look at mine, it's like, I lost $60,000 the first year in the auto glass company. The landscape design, my partner that was running everything moved out of town. So it's like, you don't always know, right, what's actually happening. You only see like the snippets of information.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So when you talk about going deeper, right, with the Warrenton location, talk about some of the strategies and like how you found that, oh, hey, there's actually more revenue potential here. There's more services we could provide. There's more whatever.
Yeah. So I continued working with Integrity for the chiropractic portion of what we do. But then basically I recognized, because Missouri is not necessarily a great state for insurance reimbursement. Like, we just don't get paid a lot.
Yeah.
And cost of living is so much higher now. So all the employees get paid twice what they got paid when I graduated, but I'm getting paid the little same amount as when I graduated. So the profitability for chiropractic just went way down. And so trying to scale that was a big part of the problem and going to 3. So I started thinking, all right, I need to find other things that are going to benefit the community. They're going to help a lot of people, but basically either aren't through insurance or we can get paid more for the same work that we're doing. So I had a company called Blueprint to Practice Automation, and they specialized in creating different niches within your practice to choose from. So for example, we started helping people with metabolic conditions, which was awesome because I've never been able to help those people that have Crohn's disease or fibromyalgia, and just with nutrition and dietary support. So that was really awesome. The most recent one I started doing was neuropathy, which was really, really cool because that was a pretty personal thing for me because my dad had neuropathy and he wound up passing at 58 from complications from all of that.
Wow.
And so I'm able to serve that whole community with neuropathy. And previously in chiropractic, we'll adjust people with neuropathy all the time, and they may notice a little bit of difference, but it definitely doesn't reverse the condition.
Sure.
And everybody that does it gets better, which is awesome. And it pays us well too for our time. So that's really been able to help us to scale and what our profitability and collections are without necessarily, like you said, having to hire 20 people and see thousands of people, and like we're breaking our bodies down trying to do so. So that's been really cool.
So are most chiropractic offices going that model as well?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, I have several friends that do it, but yeah, not that I'm aware.
So like from a marketing standpoint as well is kind of a unique selling point, even amongst the people that chiropractic and chiropractic. Now you're like, hey, we're more full service.
Right.
You know, you may not need this right now, but it's also I always look at those things as like, what are entryways into my business?
Right.
So they may have this, right? Maybe chiropractic right now, but you have this other stuff and they learn about it more, and it may be this other thing right now.
Sure.
And then it's like, okay, but you also need chiropractic at some point. So how is I guess maybe your messaging or education or brand awareness change in that regard?
Yeah. Within the office, essentially what you're describing is we're able to upsell and downsell to a wider array of people. So like the next one I'll probably roll out is decompression. After that, they have a stem cell niche that I really want to do that as well. So somebody that may not see a chiropractor, but would see somebody for stem cell injections, but then we're able to talk to them about chiropractic in that case and help them get on board with that. So yeah, it works exactly like that.
Love it. So talk to us a little bit kind of just about, I know you obviously are heavily involved with like business coaches and things like that inside of the chiropractic community. I know you've gone to chiropractic events as well and those types of things. How important has it been for you to obviously like, hey, I'm building this thing here locally in Warrenton, but I do also want to be growing my brand with inside of the chiropractic community?
No, that's a good question. So, and we've talked about this a little bit too. One of the next things, you know, you're an entrepreneur. I'm always thinking like,
where are we going?
3 years down the road. I want to take, for example, what I've been doing with neuropathy and grow that virtually. And so I would say in the past, I haven't been as worried about more global branding because my patient base is local to me. But now I'm like, crap, I should have started working with Adam a long time ago because I'm starting to think I want to bring this more into across the United States. So yeah, that'll be a huge shift for us and being able to grow a brand for sure.
Yeah. Love it, man. Any last pieces of advice? A lot of people that listen to this are entrepreneurs. They're listening because they might be stuck. I know we talked a lot about like your practice, your experience, all those things. But as we were talking before, and even a little bit on here, is like business is business 80% of the time, right? 20% is chiropractic versus marketing versus whatever's there. What are some things maybe that you've learned along the way that you're like, hey, even if I was going and doing this other thing, I wish I would have known that throughout the process?
I would say probably two main things. One, the personality type I have, I tend to be pretty empathetic. And as a business owner, you should have empathy, but you still should run your business like a business. Because not that employees have bad intentions, but they tell you stuff. And I will tend to believe that versus just looking at numbers and saying, hey, this isn't working. This needs to get fixed, and just being direct with people, not mean, but just this is what we need to do differently. And I wasn't always great at that. And I feel like that costs me, them, and the patients because I wasn't willing to have some of those conversations. Second thing I would say with business coaches specifically, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but you see like your friends are all doing all these things and adding extra clinics and doing these things. And my business coaches were saying, hey, you need to go do this. I think one thing I learned was the business coaches are great and you should follow systems, but also like I probably And I think I knew that within my own Holy Spirit, I should have been listening to what I was supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And because I didn't, I felt like that was a big part of how that didn't go well. But once I did start listening to God and followed his direction, we just had our best month ever. We collected more last month than we did with all 3 clinics.
Yeah, those are 2 powerful lessons that I think if you're listening to this and maybe you haven't gone through the experience of like needing to have tough conversations with employees, or maybe you haven't hired a business coach, those 2 things have cost me a lot of money, obviously as well. And the better you can get at having the tough conversations, leading people, and then also, I love business coaches for a variety of different reasons, but they also, even as much information as you give them, right? They're not the ones paying the bills, sitting in the seat, the ones that have to put their head down on the pillow at night in your shoes, right? There's always going to be advice that you're given, but at the end of the day, you have to fully be, I'm all in on this thing. And sometimes you have to go against the grain of the advice, of the direction, because you know something that they don't.
Right.
Love it, man. Well, this has been awesome, man. I'm glad we had the chance to do this. Thanks again for coming in. Where can people stay connected with you online? Learn more about your practice if they're out in the Warrenton area.
Oh, yeah.
And, come see them.
Yeah, our website's cschiroclinic.com. And you can follow me. I'm Dr. Dan Roach on Instagram and Facebook.
Love it, man. Well, thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah.
And thank you again to the audience for listening to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review if you're listening to this on your podcast platform. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button, making a big push for reviews and new subscribers on YouTube this year. And it definitely helps push the needle. It helps more people find the information that we talked about today with Dr. Danny Roach and many more people, the amazing guests that we have on the show. We'll see you next week. And remember, authority isn't built overnight. It's built over time.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends.